When it comes to making stuff, it's often hard to beat metal, but compared to something like plastic or a dead tree carcass, it's way harder to turn a chunk of metal into a useful part. I've usually been able to find some hacky solution, whether that's printing a template to drill holes in precise locations, or using my table saw to cut aluminum. But for the stuff I tend to make, there's one tool that would simplify probably 95% of my metalworking needs, and that is a CNC router. I want the machine to have a usable build area of 18 by 18 inches and a Z height of at least 6 inches, as that would cover most of the parts I can see myself making. The machine must be extremely rigid, so wooden frames or unsupported linear rails are out of the question. It also needs to be powerful enough to take deep cuts with a 1/4 inch end mill because I'm impatient. So anything with a tiny DC motor that only takes 1/8 inch end mills is a no-go. And lastly, and this is the real kicker, I don't want to spend $1 more than I have to. So let's take a look at what's for sale. And okay, none of these are gonna work. Everything's either too expensive or too flimsy. Looks like I'm gonna have to build this thing myself. Who could possibly have seen that coming? So when it comes to DIY CNC routers, most people seem to reach for aluminum extrusions. But I don't know, there's something about just assembling a bunch of store-bought extrusions with a bunch of brackets and fasteners that doesn't feel DIY enough. It sort of feels like assembling IKEA furniture and then claiming that you built a table. Also, aluminum extrusions are kind of expensive, but you know what's not expensive? Good old steel tubing. Now when it comes to metal fabrication, squareness and good welds are not exactly my strong suit. But rather than admitting to a lack of skill, I decided that the problem was with my equipment. You see, my current welding table is just not flat enough and it has a nasty habit of catching on fire. But when I looked at what's for sale, everything is either too expensive or too flimsy looking, so I'm gonna have to build one. I picked up this old table saw for $50 on Facebook Marketplace. It has a thick cast iron top with some openings that will be good for clamping down through. And I know some of you will probably say I'm a terrible person for buying this table saw and destroying it while there are starving children who could have eaten it, but this thing was up for sale for over a month before I bought it, so clearly the world has enough table saws. Next, I'll make a frame using whatever steel tubing I have lying around. I need a more accessible spot to store my metal. And with all the pieces ready, I can now start welding the frame together. I knew I should have splurged for the welder with the wireless ground clamp. This welding table is going to have a wooden shelf on the bottom, and for that I'm just going to use some cheap 2x4s. I decided to run the boards through my planer, not because it's necessary, but because I need to justify owning a planer. Once the welding table was finished, I decided that maybe it wouldn't hurt to do a little bit more practice welding. So for the next 5 days, I did nothing but lay down bead after bead of weld. I didn't even stop to sleep or go to the bathroom. By the end, my welds look like this, and while I'm sure you'll still find something wrong with it to comment on, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think we can all agree that it's at least better than this. Now with that side quest over, it's back to the CNC project. This is the model I designed in Fusion. It uses these linear rails from Viver, who were kind enough to send them to me at no cost. The frame is mostly built from 2-inch square tubing, and as much as I love my horizontal bandsaw, the blade does tend to wander a bit, leaving the cuts not perfectly square. So instead of buying a giant piece of steel and cutting it into pieces myself, I ordered the pieces in my desired lengths, because I trust the steel place has a better saw than me. I did give the wrong dimensions for the big 2x6 tubing though, so I still ended up having to cut that one myself, which was a real hassle because it barely fit in my saw. I had to cut it halfway and then flip it over to cut the rest. But now that all the frame pieces are cut, it's time to weld up the frame. This consisted of about 10% welding and 90% setup, which involved positioning, checking squareness, clamping, checking squareness, unclamping, checking squareness, repeat. At one point, I accidentally tack welded the frame directly to a clamp. Luckily the clamp is made from cast iron, so the weld barely stuck, and I could hammer it off pretty easily. The benefit to having the critical parts of the frame bolted instead of welded is that it doesn't matter if things warp a little from welding. The holes can just be drilled slightly oversized to help line things up. Of course, the downside of this is that I now have to manually drill and tap about 50 holes, is what I would be saying if I didn't have a CNC router. Is what I'll be able to say once I finish building my CNC router. Rather than trying to mark the locations of all the holes, which is guaranteed to introduce some error, I just clamped one of the linear rails to the steel tubing and I'll use that as a guide to drill the holes. Then I can come in and tap all the holes with an M6 tap, and before you even say it, this is a tap designed to be used in a drill. My design calls for some small pieces of flat bar welded to the end of the X-axis tubing. By having these plates to bolt the X-axis support rails to the rest of the frame, it gives me a bit of adjustability so that I can make sure the two rails are perfectly parallel. However, I forgot to account for the thickness of these plates when I specified the length of the tubing, so I'll have to cut half an inch off each one. And with that all done, it's on to the Y-axis. This part's fairly straightforward. It's just a 6-inch wide, half-inch thick piece of steel flat bar with a whole bunch more drilled and tapped holes. And of course, it just wouldn't be right if I made it through all these holes without breaking a tap at least once. I tried twisting the tap out, but it wouldn't turn more than a few degrees, so I just obliterated it with a hammer and a punch. I'll just treat this as a through hole and stick a nut on the other side. Or more likely, I'll just leave it empty, because surely if 50 fasteners is good, 49 will still be good enough. I guess I just learned the hard way that these combination drills and taps only work if the material thickness is less than or equal to the thickness of the drill portion of the tool. Because once the thread cutting teeth engage with the material, they'll try to pull the tap into the part at a rate of 1 mm per rotation, at least for this particular tap, and the drill bit just can't keep up, so I begrudgingly switched to the old-fashioned way of drilling the hole to size first, and then manually tapping by hand with a straight flute tap. Before attaching the Y-axis, I drilled and tapped holes for the Y-axis lead screw bearings. This one is just a simple roller bearing with 2 screws holding it on, and it's not even really necessary, but it will keep the lead screw from flopping around. This bearing has a nut that threads onto the lead screw, which prevents the lead screw from being able to slide in and out of the bearing. This part now gets bolted onto the rest of the frame with a few half-inch bolts. I spent a while getting it perfectly positioned, and then once I had it where I was happy, I drilled and bolted it on so that it would never lose its position. I thought about adding some reinforcement to the back of the y-axis plate, but after seeing it in real life and feeling how thick it is, I really don't think this is going to be flexing much. Next, I need to attach the x-axis rails to the rest of the frame. I went through a lot of trouble to add these plates on the ends so that I could bolt these to the frame, but I think I'm actually just going to weld them. Trying to drill all these holes is going to be a hassle, and I can still make adjustments using the bolts that hold the linear rails to the steel tubing. These are the linear rails which, as I said earlier, were generously given to me by Weaver. I was on the fence about using this type of rail or the more common HGR20 style. I have used both, and I actually prefer this round style because they're only constrained as much as they need to be. They can still rotate about this axis, so if one linear rail isn't mounted perfectly coplanar to the other, it doesn't matter. The HGR ones are almost over-constrained, so you can use that to your advantage by having just a single linear rail for one axis like they do on the Bamboo 3D printers, but in my case the round style makes more sense. These rails come in a kit with all the lead screws, ball nuts, and bearing blocks. If you're interested in picking up a set, you can use the code LiamTronics for an extra 5% off at checkout. Now onto the Z-axis. I'm going to make this from some 6" by 3/8 inch steel flat bar. I had to cut it to length on my bandsaw, but it only fit in the vertical orientation, so once again I had to cut it halfway and then flip the part. Except this time the blade wandered a lot, leaving a really hideous non-straight cut. It technically doesn't matter, but I hate it. I designed this clamp to hold my router and then 3D printed it from PLA. I want to make this part from aluminum eventually. Maybe that can be the first real project for the CNC machine. I use the part itself as a guide to drill the mounting holes in the steel plate. But then, disaster struck again. At this point, I was fed up with this part and threw it in the scrap bin. I decided instead to make the Z-axis from MDF, which would give me a minimum viable CNC router which I could then use to remake the Z-axis out of steel. So I cut some pieces of MDF and drilled all the necessary holes, but I didn't have the right size of socket head cap screws to hold the linear bearings. I thought I could get away with using flathead bolts, but the problem with those is that they self-align into the center of the hole, so if the holes are slightly off, enlarging them won't help. And of course my holes were slightly off, causing the bearings to bind up and not slide freely on the rails. So I threw this part in the scrap bin as well and got myself a piece of 6" by 1/2 inch aluminum flat bar. I also got the proper lengths of socket head screws. The Z-axis consists of two parts, this plate that holds the linear rails and this other plate that holds the linear bearings and moves up and down. For the first part, I could just use the rails themselves as guides to drill the holes. That won't work for the linear bearings though, since they have blind holes. So to help me with drilling the holes in the exact right locations, I 3D printed a little drill guide. I can't wait until I have a CNC router so I don't have to mess around with stuff like this anymore. Once I got these 4 holes drilled and tapped, I realized that they actually don't need to be tapped, and they should just be through holes. Luckily it's an easy fix, unlike if I had made the mistake the other way around. Now all I have to do is drill them larger. All the holes are drilled now, and I could use this part as it is, but I decided to try giving it a quick sanding with 200 grit sandpaper on my random orbit sander. I'm really happy with how it turned out. If you don't look too closely or take any actual measurements, it almost looks like a professionally made part. This is the router I'm going to use. It's not the best, and I'll probably upgrade it in the near future, but it's what I'm going to use for now. I 3D printed a holder for it, but it's just slightly too loose when I tighten the bolts. I could change the dimensions and reprint it, which would take a few hours and turn this part into garbage, or I could just add 2 pieces of tape on the inside which takes up the gap and allows it to grip the router perfectly. The lead screws came with some little aluminum flex couplings, but the internal diameter is way too small to fit my stepper motors. Luckily, I have a lathe. Next, I 3D printed some motor mounts. Eventually, I'd like to make these from metal, but plastic should work fine for now. The motors only need to be constrained from being able to rotate, as the lead screws are otherwise fully supported by their bearings. I really like designing things in CAD before I build them. Among many things, it helps me catch potential assembly issues that might not be obvious if I only draw the design out on paper, or worse, keep it in my head. Even still, some issues still come up during assembly, like the screw on this motor coupling, which I had to file down slightly to prevent it from interfering with one of the Y-axis bolts. For the table, I'm currently just using a piece of particle board. It's not very strong, but it is quite flat. In the next video, I'll upgrade this to a steel plate and install a proper milling vise. Before doing any actual cutting, I decided it would be safer to start with some drawing. So I designed and 3D printed this little mechanism, which allows the CNC machine to move a pen around. It allows the pen to move up and down freely. This way, the CNC machine won't just ram the pen into the paper, shattering it. To control the stepper drivers, I'm using a Raspberry Pi. This isn't ideal because it's not a real-time operating system, which, if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But this setup should work perfectly fine for some initial tests. I created this Python script which lets me enter 3 numbers, which are the number of steps to move each axis. So if I send 100, 100, 0, it will move the X and Y axes 100 steps, which should draw a diagonal line. To make a sequence of movements, I can create a bash script, which repeatedly calls the Python script with different X, Y, and Z values. I made this script, which should produce some fine artwork. This method has its limitations, such as the fact that there's no way to specify the speed or acceleration of the movements, and making anything complex would require hand coding an outrageously long bash script. So instead, I created a new Python script which just takes a G-code file. You've probably heard of G-code if you've ever done any 3D printing, but it's what's used by all CNC machines. It's kind of like the bash script I created in the sense that it's just a list of movements, but it has a lot of added features. Each line of G-code starts with a command. Some commands work on their own and need no further parameters, like G28, which returns the machine to its home position, or MO5, which turns off the spindle motor. Other commands need additional arguments, like G1, which is the movement command. It's typically followed by 3 numbers which correspond to the X, Y, and Z distances. There are lots of other commands to control the travel speed, spindle motor speed, coolant, and other stuff, but those will be left as an exercise for the viewer. The main benefit to using this new Python program is that 3D modeling programs like Fusion can generate the toolpaths for complex parts and export it as G-code. Each motor driver is being powered by an adjustable lab power supply set to 30 volts. This is obviously temporary. I just wanted to get a sense of how much input current each motor driver would draw before going and buying a dedicated power supply. I also still need to build an electrical cabinet for all these things, and I'd like to stop directly controlling the motors with a Raspberry Pi because it occasionally has timing glitches that can cause the motors to lose steps. I think I'll probably use an Arduino to drive them instead, with the Raspberry Pi serving as a front end to send commands to the Arduino. There are some open source programs like Universal G-Code Sender and GRBL that I'm leaning towards using, so stay tuned for part 2 of this project where I'll actually use it to cut some metal. If you like this video, remember to subscribe and click the severed hand. As always, big thanks to my Patreon supporters. Members can get bonus content, the CAD files for this project, early access to videos, and more.